The 5 alien ships descended through Earth's atmosphere, their surfaces gleaming in the morning sunlight. They were small, each no larger than a bus, and moved in perfect formation. The ships landed gently in a circle on an empty field outside, Boulder, Colorado, barely disturbing the tall grass around them. Ambassador Zalthon took a deep breath of filtered air inside his ship. He had studied humans for 20 years, but meeting them face to face was different. He checked the environmental readings once more. Earth's atmosphere was breathable for his kind with only minor discomfort. Final preparations, delegates, Zalthon announced over the communication system. Remember your training and the mission parameters. Humans are unpredictable but not necessarily dangerous. Our task is observation and assessment. Inside the other ships, the 4 alien diplomats made their final adjustments. Each represented a different species from the Galactic Confederation, chosen specifically for this historic meeting. Nyxera, of the crystalline luminar, adjusted her light-refracting outer shell. Her species communicated partially through light patterns, and she wanted to ensure her translator would properly convert these signals. Her smooth, faceted body shimmered as she moved toward the exit hatch. In another ship, Vexillor clicked his mandibles nervously. The tall, insect-like Kepri warrior had argued against this mission. His people believed in strength and clear hierarchy. From what he had studied, humans were chaotic and emotional. Still, as military advisor, his duty was to assess their threat level. Keldra floated in a tank of specialized liquid. The aquatic Meridian scientist was eager to begin. Her tentacles waved with excitement as she transferred herself into a mobile water suit that would allow her to move on land. The biodiversity of Earth fascinated her. Mortek had no solid form at all. The gaseous etheric cultural attaché swirled inside a containment field that gave him rough, humanoid shape. His species thought in pure logic, and human expressions and cultural practices made little sense to him. He condensed himself slightly, preparing for the confusion ahead. A convoy of black vehicles approached the landing site. They formed a semicircle facing the alien ships. Men and women in suits and uniforms exited the vehicles, looking both nervous and excited. "They're here," said Samantha Wells, straightening her jacket. At 38, she never expected to lead humanity's first official contact with alien life. A week ago, she had been a senior diplomatic advisor at the State Department. Now she headed the hastily formed First Contact Division. Beside her, Paul Bennett fidgeted with his tie. "I still can't believe this is happening. Actual aliens, and they speak English." "They don't actually speak English," corrected Olivia Martinez, the cultural anthropologist. "Their message said they use translation technology. We need to be careful about assumptions." Daniel Rogers, the xenobiologist, checked his tablet one last time. Their biological information wasn't very detailed. "I hope they don't have any pathogens we're not prepared for." "That's why we're keeping this contained," said Captain Frank Murphy, scanning the perimeter where soldiers maintained a wide security cordon. "No civilians, limited personnel, controlled environment." The doors on each alien ship opened simultaneously. The 5 diplomats emerged and stood before their vessels. They varied dramatically in appearance, united only by the similar silver devices they all wore or incorporated into their forms. Zalthon stepped forward. He looked the most humanoid of the group, though his gray skin, large black eyes, and 2 long limbs clearly marked him as alien. He raised a 4-fingered hand in greeting. "People of Earth." His voice came through the translation device with only a slight mechanical quality. "I am Ambassador Zalthon of the Galactic Confederation. We come in peace and with curiosity." Samantha stepped forward, heart pounding. "Ambassador Zalthon, I am Agent Samantha Wells of Earth's First Contact Division. On behalf of humanity, welcome to our world." Zalthon gestured to his companions. "My delegation represents 4 of the 17 species in our alliance. We have observed your world from afar and now seek to understand you better." The introductions continued as each alien diplomat came forward. Nyxera's crystalline body caught the sunlight, sending rainbow patterns across the ground. Vexillor stood stiffly at attention, his compound eyes taking in everything. Keldra moved with a flowing grace inside her water suit, while Mortek's gaseous form shifted constantly within his containment field. The human team tried not to stare, but it was difficult. They had been selected for their expertise and emotional stability, but nothing could fully prepare them for this moment. "We have prepared accommodations," said Samantha, finding her professional voice again. "A secure facility where both our peoples can interact comfortably." "Acceptable," Zalthon nodded. "We have brought our own sustenance and environmental requirements." The first meeting was brief but historic. Within an hour, the aliens were escorted to a nearby compound that had been rapidly converted for their use. Each alien was assigned a human counterpart to facilitate understanding. Nixara was paired with Olivia. The crystalline being found the human's questions about art and culture puzzling but intriguing. "Your species creates objects with no practical function?" Nixara asked as they toured the facility. "Art isn't about function," Olivia explained. "It's about expression, beauty, emotion." "Emotion as communication." Nixara's lights pulsed thoughtfully. "Inefficient, but interesting." Meanwhile, Vexilor followed Captain Murphy through security protocols, noting everything with military precision. "Your weapons are primitive," the insectoid alien observed, "but numerous." Frank smiled tightly. "We hope never to use them against your people." "Hope is irrelevant. Preparation is wise," Vexler responded. But something in the human's balanced approach to strength and restraint confused him. In the science lab, Keldra was already examining Earth specimens with Daniel. The aquatic alien moved her tentacles excitedly. "So much life, so many forms," she bubbled through her translator. "Your planet teems with diversity. Our ocean world has fewer distinctions." "Earth has had a complex evolutionary history," Daniel explained, grateful for the alien's enthusiasm. Mortek drifted alongside Paul through diplomatic quarters, his gaseous form occasionally changing colors. "Your communication contains many unnecessary elements," the Aetheri noted after their first briefing. "Like what?" Paul asked. "Smiles. Hand movements. Voice tone changes. These add no data." Paul laughed. "That's where you're wrong. They add plenty of data, just not the kind you're used to measuring." At day's end, the delegates gathered with Zalthon to share observations. The ambassador listened carefully to each report, noting with interest how each diplomat described their human counterpart. Later, alone in his quarters, Zalthon recorded his private thoughts. Day 1 on Earth. The humans are as complex as our studies suggested. What we did not anticipate is how quickly their patterns of thought might influence our own delegates. Already I see subtle changes in how my team processes information. The Council must be informed that humans may be more transformative than we expected. The question remains, is this transformation beneficial or dangerous to the Confederation? He sent the encrypted message to the waiting Confederation ship beyond Earth's moon, then prepared for sleep. Outside his window, stars twinkled in the night sky, the same stars visible from thousands of worlds, yet somehow different when viewed from this strange blue planet. The diplomatic mission had only just begun. 1 week passed since the aliens arrived on Earth. The diplomatic compound outside Boulder buzzed with activity as both species settled into a rhythm of cultural exchange. Each alien diplomat spent their days with their human counterpart, learning and observing. Nixara sat in the art studio with Olivia. The crystalline being had never held a paintbrush before 3 days ago. Now, she moved it across the canvas with careful strokes. Her crystalline body reflected colored light onto the walls as she worked. "What are you painting?" Olivia asked, watching with fascination. "I am not certain," Nixara admitted. "I saw these colors in my rest cycle, like images, but not from memory." "You had a dream," Olivia explained. "Do your people not dream?" The Luminar share consciousness. Individual experiences during rest are considered errors. Nixara paused, her lights dimming slightly. "I have never reported such errors before coming to Earth." Olivia smiled. "Dreams aren't errors. They're how our minds process information and feelings." "Feelings," Nixera repeated the word slowly. An imprecise term, yet I find myself experiencing them more distinctly here. Across the compound, Captain Murphy led Vexillor through a training exercise with human soldiers. The insectoid alien observed as the men and women worked through combat scenarios. Your warriors lack uniformity, Vexillor noted. Each moves differently. Frank nodded. We train for coordination, but we value individual strengths too. In Kepri forces, identical movement is mandatory. Variation equals weakness. Vexillor's mandibles clicked. Yet your soldiers perform effectively despite differences. Sometimes because of those differences, Frank corrected. Different approaches solve different problems. Vexillor watched silently as a small female soldier outmaneuvered a larger male opponent using speed instead of strength. This contradicts Kepri military doctrine, he finally said. Maybe that's worth thinking about, Frank suggested. In the research lab, Keldra floated in her water suit beside Daniel. They examined samples from a nearby stream. These single-celled organisms, Keldra said, her tentacles waving excitedly. They are ancestors to both of us, yes? To all Earth life? In key. Away, Daniel agreed. All life on Earth shares common ancestry if you go back far enough. On Meridian, we eliminated unnecessary species centuries ago, kept only what served purpose. Keldra's voice through the translator sounded sad. I now question this choice. Daniel looked surprised. That's a big shift in perspective. Yesterday I watched small flying creatures. Birds, Daniel supplied. Birds, Keldra repeated. They served no obvious function. Yet their movements brought me satisfaction. This response is not typical of Meridian science. In the communications center, Mortek drifted beside Paul as they reviewed diplomatic transmissions from world governments. Humans use too many words, the gaseous alien complained. This could be stated with exact precision in 1/3 the language. Paul laughed. But would it have the same impact? Words aren't just about information, they're about persuasion, emotion, connection. Inefficient, Mortek insisted, but his gaseous form shifted to a warmer orange color. Did you just change color? Paul asked. An involuntary response. It happens more frequently here, Mortek admitted. Most concerning. I think you're developing a sense of humor, Paul suggested. Humor, another inefficiency. Yet Mortek's form brightened further. Ambassador Zalthon sat across from Samantha in the main conference room. They met daily to discuss progress and concerns. Your delegates seem to be adapting well, Samantha observed. Perhaps too well, Zalthon replied. They show signs of significant deviation from baseline behaviors. Is that a problem? Samantha asked carefully. Zalthon hesitated. The Confederation values stability. Rapid change is often viewed with concern. Change can be good, Samantha pointed out. Growth, evolution, improvement. Perhaps, or perhaps dangerous. Zalthon's large eyes studied her. Your species embraces change eagerly. Most galactic civilizations achieve stability, then maintain it precisely. That sounds boring, Samantha said before she could stop herself. To her surprise, Zalthon made a sound like soft laughter. Indeed. I find myself thinking similar thoughts lately. This is precisely my concern. That evening, the delegates gathered privately in Zalthon's quarters. The meeting was tense. I created art today, Nixara said, her crystalline surface rippling, with light patterns. Without function, for pleasure alone. The Luminar Council would consider this corruption, Vexillor stated flatly. As would the Kepri Command, Nixara countered. Yet you questioned military doctrine today. I monitored your communications. Vexillor's mandibles clicked rapidly. Observation of alternatives is not acceptance. I felt sadness for extinct species. Keldra interjected, her tentacles drooping. Sadness. a meridian scientist experiencing emotional response to logical action. I changed colors while discussing human communication patterns, Mortek added, his gaseous form swirling faster. I found Paul's observations amusing. Enough. Zalthon raised a hand. We must acknowledge what is happening. Human interaction is affecting our neural patterns. The question is whether to resist or explore these changes. The mission objective is observation without contamination, Vexlor reminded them. Are we contaminated or expanded? Nixara's lights pulsed with new patterns. I have experienced dreams. They are beautiful. Beauty is subjective and unnecessary, Mortek said, but his form shifted to a deep purple that contradicted his words. We should report these developments to the Confederation Council, Vexler insisted. And risk immediate recall? Keldra's tentacles waved in agitation. My research is incomplete. Zalthon listened to the debate with growing concern. His delegates were changing rapidly, too rapidly. More concerning still, he recognized changes in himself. Human unpredictability no longer seemed threatening. Instead, it felt refreshing. We continue the mission, he finally decided. But we must be mindful of these changes. Document them. Study them. They may reveal important truths about humans and ourselves. Later that night, in her quarters, Nixara stood before her painting. The swirls of color represented nothing concrete, yet they stirred something within her crystalline consciousness. For the first time in her existence, she had created something unique, something that no other Luminar had ever produced. If she returned to her homeworld with this new perspective, she would face correction procedures. Her neural pathways would be reset to standard patterns. The thought brought an unfamiliar sensation that humans called fear. Outside the compound, stars filled the night sky. Inside, 5 alien visitors lay awake, each contemplating how a mere 7 days on Earth had already begun to change them in ways they never imagined possible. And this was only the beginning. 3 weeks had passed since the alien delegation arrived on Earth. What began as subtle changes in the Diplomats now became impossible to ignore. The human team watched with a mixture of wonder and concern as their alien counterparts transformed. Before their eyes, Nixara no longer spent just scheduled hours in the art studio with Olivia. The crystalline being now worked through the night, creating paintings that grew increasingly complex and emotional. Her latest work covered an entire wall, a swirling galaxy of colors that seemed to move when viewed from different angles. It's beautiful, Olivia said, standing beside Nixara in the morning light. What inspired this? I dreamed of home. Nixara's voice was soft through her translator. Not as it is, but as it could be, with color and feeling and individual thought. Do you miss your world? Olivia asked. Nixara's crystalline surface dimmed slightly. I miss what I never knew it could be. She turned to Olivia, her lights pulsing in new patterns. The Luminar believe perfect unity is our strength. We suppress individual thinking as disorder. But now I wonder, what art, what dreams have we lost in our pursuit of perfect harmony? Elsewhere in the compound, Vexler stood with Captain Murphy in the training yard. They watched human soldiers practice combat scenarios very different from those they had started with. Your suggestion to incorporate diverse tactics was effective, Vexler admitted. His posture had changed over the weeks, less rigid, more fluid. The Kepri would never accept such methods. Why not, Frank asked, if they work better? Change threatens hierarchy. Questions undermine authority. Vexelor's mandibles clicked softly. At least this is what I was taught. And what do you think now? Vexler was silent for a long moment. I think adaptability may be stronger than rigidity. I think questions may strengthen authority worth following. He turned his compound eyes to Frank. These thoughts would be treason among my people. In the laboratory, Keldra refused to continue an experiment that would harm a small mammal. Her tentacles waved in agitation inside her water suit as she spoke with Daniel. I cannot proceed, she said firmly. This creature would suffer unnecessarily. Daniel nodded but looked confused. I thought Meridian science didn't recognize animal suffering as relevant. It doesn't, Keldra admitted. 3 weeks ago, I would have performed this test without hesitation. But now... Her tentacles curled inward. I look at this small life form, and I feel connection, responsibility. I cannot explain this change scientifically, yet I cannot ignore it. Daniel carefully placed the test animal back in its enclosure. Humans call it empathy. It's the foundation of our ethics. Empathy, Keldra repeated. On Meridian, this would be considered a serious defect in a scientist. I would be reconditioned. And here? Daniel asked. Here I feel more complete, Keldra said. In the communications center, Mortek surprised Paul by telling a joke. The gaseous alien's form rippled with blue light as he delivered the punchline. That was actually funny, Paul said, laughing. When did you develop a sense of humor? I have been studying human communication patterns, Mortek explained, his form shifting between colors. Humor requires recognizing unexpected connections between concepts. Initially, I found this illogical. Now I find it satisfying. The Etheri don't have jokes? Paul asked. Etheri communication is purely informational. Metaphor, humor, poetry. These are considered processing errors. Mortek drifted closer to Paul. Yet these errors create understanding that pure logic cannot. This contradicts everything my species believes. In the main conference room, Ambassador Zalthon sat alone, reviewing reports from each diplomat. The changes were accelerating. Even more concerning, he recognized similar changes in himself. He felt curiosity about human customs that went beyond professional interest. He found himself enjoying meals, music, even the unpredictable weather. He had begun to question the Confederation's rigid protocols. A communication alert interrupted his thoughts. The message was from the Confederation Council. Zalthon felt a twist of anxiety as he opened it. Ambassador Zalthon, the message read, your recent reports indicate concerning patterns in your delegation. Analysis suggests human influence is altering neural pathways in all Confederation representatives. A retrieval vessel has been dispatched. Prepare delegation for immediate extraction upon arrival in 7 Earth days. Full decontamination protocols will be implemented. Zalthon closed the message, his mind racing. Decontamination protocols meant memory adjustment, neural resets, personality reconstruction. The changes his team experienced would be erased. They would be returned to their original states, efficient, logical, and unchanged. He called an emergency meeting with the human team. When everyone had gathered, he shared the news. The Confederation considers us contaminated, he explained. They will remove us and attempt to reverse all changes we have experienced. Samantha looked shocked. You make it sound like you've caught a disease. You've just been learning about another culture. To many species in the Confederation, dramatic change is seen as illness. Zalthon said, stability is valued above all else. Most member worlds have not significantly altered their societies in thousands of years. That's not stability, Olivia argued. That's stagnation. Perhaps, Zalthon agreed, surprising himself. This thought would not have occurred to me before Earth. What will happen to your delegates? Daniel asked. Their experiences will be adjusted to remove contaminating influences. They will return to their previous states. They'll be erased, Frank said bluntly. Zalthon didn't contradict him. The human team shared concerned glances. Can we prevent this? Samantha asked. The retrieval ship arrives in 7 days. The Confederation's decision is final. Zalthon looked at each human face. However, I have not yet informed my delegation. I wanted to consult with you first. They have the right to know, Paul said firmly. Even if the knowledge will distress them? Zalthon asked. Especially then, Samantha answered. They deserve the chance to process what's happening, and perhaps decide for themselves what they want. Zalthon considered this. Among his people, leaders protected subordinates from difficult truths. But here on Earth, he had observed a different approach. Humans believed information empowered choice. I will tell them, he finally decided. That evening, Zalthon gathered his 4 diplomats. When he shared the council's message, their reactions confirmed how much they had changed. Nixara's crystalline surface darkened in distress. Vexlor's mandibles clicked rapidly in agitation. Keldra's tentacles twisted together in what looked remarkably like a human wringing their hands. Mortek's gaseous form condensed and darkened. They can erase what we've become, Nixara asked, her lights pulsing weakly. They can reset neural patterns, yes, Zalthon confirmed. I do not wish to forget, Keldra said quietly. What I've learned here has value. The Council believes otherwise, Zalthon told them. They fear what humanity has awakened in us. Fear, Vexler repeated. Yes, I recognize this now. The Confederation fears change because change threatens control. The 5 aliens looked at one another, their transformations now undeniable. They had come to study humans but found themselves changed instead. And in 7 days, they would face a choice that none of them could have imagined when they first arrived on Earth. 4 days remained until the retrieval ship arrived. The mood in the diplomatic compound had changed completely. What began as a mission of discovery now felt like a countdown to loss. Both humans and aliens felt the weight of the coming separation and the threat to the delegates' newfound identities. Nixara stood in her room surrounded by dozens of paintings. Each canvas captured something she had discovered on Earth: the sunrise over mountains, the pattern of rain on windows, the faces of her human friends. She touched each one gently with her crystalline appendages. Olivia entered quietly and watched her alien friend. You've created so much beauty in such a short time. Beauty that will be lost. Nixara's voice was flat through her translator. When I return, these works will be destroyed. They represent deviation from Luminar thought patterns. You could stay, Olivia suggested carefully. Nixara's surface rippled with surprised light patterns. Stay on Earth? It's just an idea. If the alternative is losing everything you've become, the Confederation would not allow it, Nixara said. And yet, her lights pulsed with new intensity. The thought of returning to the collective, of losing these experiences, these feelings, I cannot bear it. Across the compound, Vexlor paced in the training yard. His movements were different now, less mechanical, more fluid. Captain Murphy watched him from a distance. You're worried, Frank finally said, approaching the insectoid alien. The Kepri do not worry, Vexler replied automatically, then clicked his mandibles in frustration. No, that is not true. I am worried. I question things I never questioned before. My certainty is gone. That sounds like growth to me, Frank said. To the Kepri command, it is failure. Vexler stopped pacing. If I return with these thoughts, I will be executed. Questioning the hierarchy is punishable by death. Frank looked shocked. That's extreme. It is how the Kepri maintain order. Vexler's compound eyes fixed on Frank. Yet here I stand, questioning everything, and the world does not end. Instead, it expands. In the laboratory, Keldra and Daniel carefully tended to the collection of Earth specimens they had gathered. The aquatic alien moved with unusual slowness. I have decided to take samples back with me, Keldra announced suddenly. DNA from Earth species. I will create habitats in Meridian's oceans, small ecosystems like those here. Will your people allow that? Daniel asked. No. Keldra's tentacles curled inward. Not at first. But if I can show them what I've learned, that empathy enhances science rather than corrupts it. Perhaps change can come slowly. You're planning to go back then? I must, Keldra said. Even if my memories are altered, the samples will remain. They will be my backup, my insurance against forgetting. In the communications center, Mortek and Paul worked silently side by side. The gaseous alien had been unusually still all morning. I have been researching options, Mortek finally said. The Aetheri possess an ability that might prove useful. Now, what kind of ability? Paul asked. We can divide our consciousness, split ourselves. Mortek's form shifted colors as he spoke. It is used rarely, only in extreme circumstances. But I could leave a portion of myself here on Earth while the majority returns to the Confederation. You could stay and go at the same time. In essence, yes. The part that remains would be diminished but intact. Mortek drifted closer to Paul. The concepts I have learned here, humor, metaphor, poetry, they have value. I wish to preserve them, even if only in a fragment of myself. In the main conference room, Ambassador Zalthon met with Samantha. His expression was grave. I have received another communication from the Council, he said. They require an explanation for our extended stay. What did you tell them? Samantha asked. A partial truth, that we are gathering final data. Zalthon leaned forward. But there is something you should know. Something I have not shared with anyone, not even my delegation. Samantha waited silently. Earth was never being evaluated for membership in the Confederation, Zalthon said. That was a cover story. Then why are you here? Samantha's voice was cautious. To assess whether humanity represents a threat? Zalthon's large eyes met hers. Your species evolves rapidly, biologically and culturally. You embrace change. Most Confederation species find this deeply unsettling. Change isn't dangerous, Samantha argued. Look at my delegation, Zalthon countered. In mere weeks, humans have fundamentally altered beings from 4 ancient and stable civilizations. From the Confederation's perspective, this is terrifying. Understanding dawned on Samantha's face. You're not here to learn from us. You're here to decide if we should be contained. Or worse, Zalthon admitted. But something unexpected happened. Instead of confirming humanity's danger, my delegates experienced its benefits. We, have been transformed. And now I question the mission itself. That evening, Zalthon called an emergency meeting with both teams. Humans and aliens gathered together, tension filling the room. 3 days remain before the retrieval. Ship arrives. He began. Each of my delegates faces a difficult choice. I believe you should hear these choices from them directly. Nixara spoke first, her crystalline surface shimmering with nervous energy. I cannot return to the Luminar Collective. The individual consciousness I have developed would be erased. I wish to request asylum on Earth. Gasps came from several humans. This was unprecedented. Vexler clicked his mandibles for attention. I have decided to return to the Kepri. My new understanding of adaptability and questioning could benefit my people, even if it costs me my life. Some truths are worth dying for. Keldra waved her tentacles gently. I will also return. I take with me samples of Earth life and the concept of empathy. Change must come to Meridian, even if slowly. I accept the risk of recondition. Mortek's gaseous form shifted colors rapidly. I shall divide. A fragment of my consciousness will remain here to continue learning, while the majority returns. Perhaps the fragment can eventually communicate new concepts to my people in ways they can accept. All eyes turned to Zalthon. The ambassador was silent for a long moment. I came to assess humanity's threat level, he finally said. I must return with my assessment. But it will not be what the Council expects. I will tell them that humanity's influence is not contamination but evolution, painful, frightening, but necessary for growth. Samantha looked around the room at the 5 aliens who had arrived as diplomats and would leave as revolutionaries, or not leave at all. Whatever you decide, she said, Earth will support you. You came to change us, but we changed you instead. Perhaps that's what true diplomacy should be. Not just exchange of information, but transformation on both sides. As the meeting ended, the weight of these decisions hung in the air. Each diplomat now faced not just a personal choice, but potentially the beginning of massive change for their entire species. 3 days remained until they would have to act on these choices, with consequences none could fully predict. The retrieval ship descended from the clouds exactly 7 days after the Confederation's message. It was larger than the Diplomats' vessels, with a sleek black surface that absorbed light rather than reflected it. It landed in the same field, where the delegation had first arrived, stirring up dust and flattening the grass in a wide circle. Both human and alien teams gathered at the edge of the diplomatic compound to watch the arrival. The mood was solemn. In just 3 weeks, strangers had become friends, and now they faced a parting that would change them all. The retrieval ship's door opened, and 3 figures emerged. They wore protective suits that covered their bodies completely, suggesting fear of contamination. The leader stepped forward, removing his helmet to reveal features similar to Zalthon's. "Commander Draxar," Zalthon said, stepping forward to greet him. "The Confederation honors us with your presence." "Ambassador Zalthon," Draxar's voice was cold. "Your mission is terminated. Prepare your delegation for immediate departure and decontamination." Draxar's eyes moved past Zalthon to study the delegates standing with their human counterparts. His expression hardened. "The contamination is worse than reported," he said. "Your delegates show significant deviation from baseline behaviors." "Not contamination," Zalthon corrected firmly. "Growth, evolution, positive adaptation." Draxar looked shocked at this contradiction. "You too have been affected. Immediate extraction is necessary." Samantha stepped forward. "Commander, your delegates have made their own choices about returning. I hope you'll respect their decisions." "Humans have no voice in this matter," Draxar said dismissively. "All Confederation citizens will return for proper restoration." "And if they choose otherwise?" Frank asked, standing beside Vexilor. "There is no choice," Draxar insisted. "Delegates, prepare for departure." A tense silence followed. Then Nyxara moved forward, her crystalline body catching the sunlight and sending rainbow patterns across the ground. "I request asylum on Earth," she said clearly. "I choose to remain." Draxar's face contorted with disbelief. "Impossible. No Confederation citizen has ever defected." "I am not defecting." Nyxara's lights pulsed with strong, steady patterns. "I am evolving. The Luminar believe perfect unity is our strength, but I have discovered that individual expression creates new possibilities. I cannot return to a collective that would erase what I have become. This proves the danger humans represent." Draxar turned to his team. "Prepare containment protocols for the Luminar delegate." "You will not touch her," Olivia said, stepping beside Nyxara. Other humans moved forward as well, forming a protective circle around the crystalline being. Draxar hesitated, clearly unprepared for this resistance. Vexilor stepped forward next. "I will return to the Confederation," he said. Draxar looked relieved. "At least one delegate retained sanity." "But I return changed," Vexilor continued. "I will bring to the Kepri a new understanding of adaptability and questioning authority. Our rigid hierarchy has prevented growth for too long. You will be executed for such ideas," Draxar warned. "Perhaps," Vexilor's mandibles clicked calmly, "or perhaps my people are ready for change, even if our leaders are not." Keldra moved forward in her water suit. "I too will return," she said. "But I bring with me samples of Earth life and the concept of empathy. The Meridian approach to science lacks compassion, and this limits our understanding." "These samples will be destroyed," Draxar said. "Your neural pathways will be reset." "You may reset my memories." Keldra's tentacles waved with determination. "But ideas, once introduced, are difficult to eliminate completely. Change will come to Meridian, even if slowly." Mortek drifted forward, his gaseous form shifting between colors. "I have already divided my consciousness," he announced. "A fragment remains here on Earth while I return to the Confederation." "This is unprecedented," Draxar looked alarmed. "Division is permitted only in emergencies." "This is an emergency," Mortek replied. "The preservation of new knowledge. The Aetheri's pure logic has limitations that metaphor and humor can overcome. My fragment will continue learning here while I gradually introduce these concepts at home." Draxar turned to Zalthon in frustration. You have completely lost control of your delegation. No, Zalthon said calmly. I have watched them grow, beyond control, and this is humanity's gift. Not chaos, but freedom. Not contamination, but evolution. Your report to the Council? Draxar demanded. Will be the truth, Zalthon said, that humanity does not need to be contained or feared. They change us, yes, but change is not inherently dangerous. It can be valuable. The Council will reject this assessment, Draxar warned. Perhaps, Zalthon agreed. But I have changed too. I cannot report anything else. What followed was tense negotiation. In the end, a compromise was reached. Nyxara would remain on Earth as the first permanent Confederation representative with diplomatic status. Vexler, Keldra, and Mortek would return but would not undergo full neural resets, only medical examination to ensure they carried no human pathogens. Zalthon would deliver his report in person to the Confederation Council. As the delegates prepared to leave, emotional goodbyes were exchanged. Bonds formed over just 3 weeks proved surprisingly strong. Will we see you again? Samantha asked Zalthon. I believe so, he replied. This mission marks the beginning of a new relationship between Earth and the Confederation, not the end. Olivia hugged Nyxara awkwardly, mindful of her crystalline form. I'll help you adjust to life here. And I will help humans understand. The Confederation. Nyxara's lights pulsed warmly. I may be the first to stay, but I doubt I will be the last. Daniel handed Keldra a small container of additional samples. Our secret, he whispered. I will not forget, Keldra promised, no matter what procedures they perform. Frank clasped forearms with Vexler in a warrior's farewell. Fight the good fight. I now understand what that means. Vexler clicked his mandibles in what had become his version of a smile. Paul waved his hand through the fragment of Mortek that would remain on Earth. I'll miss your terrible jokes. They will improve with practice. Mortek's colors shifted to a happy blue. As the retrieval ship prepared for departure, Samantha stood with her team and Nyxara, watching 3 of their alien friends leave. The ship rose slowly, then accelerated upward, becoming a small dot and then vanishing entirely. 6 months later, Samantha received an encrypted transmission from Zalthon. The message was brief, but significant. The Council has approved limited diplomatic exchange with Earth. Humanity's influence is still feared, but also recognized as potentially valuable. A new delegation arrives soon, and several former delegates send their regards. Samantha smiled as she shared the news with her team and Nyxara, who had become a beloved fixture in the diplomatic compound. The Crystalline Alien's latest art exhibition, Perspectives Beyond Earth, had drawn visitors from around the world. So it begins, Nyxara said, her lights pulsing with joy. Not just aliens visiting Earth, but perhaps humans visiting the stars. Will they return unchanged? Olivia wondered. Samantha laughed. After what we've seen? Not a chance. For the first time in Confederation history, change was being embraced rather than feared. And it had all started with 5 diplomats who came to Earth and discovered that transformation was not something to resist, but something to celebrate. None had returned unchanged, and the galaxy would never be the same.